Rambam of today, and then we'll say Kaddish the Rabbana, page 26. The Rambam speaks about something very interesting. In the time of Yochanan Kohen Gadol, which lived during the second Beit HaMikdash, 2,300 years ago, after Shimon HaTzadik was a Kohen Gadol for 40 years, and Yochanan Kohen Gadol was for 80 years. Eventually, Yochanan Kohen Gadol, after being a Kohen Gadol for 80 years, became a Tzeduki. Tzeduki is a heretic, and he rebelled. Don't ask the whole story. 80 years being a Kohen Gadol, and then he went off the last few years of his life. Then he had to come to reincarnation to Rabbi Elazar ben Dudaya. And Rabbi Elazar ben Dudaya was a rebel and a bandit, and then he died in the tshuva to rectify the soul of Yochanan Kohen Gadol. But anyway, to make the long story short, Yochanan Kohen Gadol sent people to the entire Jewish community in Israel to see and investigate if Jews were taking off Truma and Maisa. Truma is the 2% from your produce that grows you give to the Kohen, and Maisa is the 10% that you give to the Levi. So he checked everywhere, and he saw that everyone is taking off the Truma to the 2% of the Kohen, or the 10% to the Levi. Some yes, some not, but that was becoming a little issue. Now what's the problem? The problem is like this. After you give the 10% to the Levi, there's called Trumas Masa, which is from the 10% that the Levi gets, he has to take off from that 10%, the 10% of 10%, and give it to the Kohen.
That's everything.
So, no. You have 100 bundles of wheat. 2% you give to the Kohen. 10% you give to the Levi. From the 10% of the Levi, you have to take off Trumas Masa, which is 10%. From the 10%, the Levi has to give it to the Kohen. Now, what's the problem? The problem is, if you don't take off the Truma, the 10% from the 10%, and you eat, it's a death penalty. Spiritual death penalty. In other words, like this, if you took off the Truma, the first 2%, plus the Truma from the Maaseh, which is the 10% of the 10%, if you did that, you're not going to get a death penalty if you eat the Maaseh, the 10% of the Levi or whatever. But if you eat the percentage that goes to the, if you don't take off the percentage that goes off to the Kohen, whatever you eat is a death penalty. So it was a big problem. So you know what he did? He made a rule that's called the Mai. The Mai means the Mai. We don't know for sure if they took off the 10% or not. So whenever you buy produce from an Amma Oretz, Amma Oretz means an illiterate Jew, you have to take off a 10% because we're not sure that he took off the 10% and gave the 10% of the 10% to the Kohen. So in other words, like this. When you go to the marketplace and the guy says, here's 10 pounds of tomatoes. You don't have to take off the 2% of the Truma for the Kohen because everyone does that. They're not going to sell you a product without taking off the 2% for the Kohen. But the 10% for the Levi and the 10% of the 10% that you're supposed to give to the Kohen, that we don't know. So if you buy it from an illiterate person, Amma Oretz, you have to take it off as a doubt. I'm not sure, as a doubt. If you buy it from a Talmud Chacham, you don't have to take it off, because he for sure took off the 10%. So it became like a split a little. Who's considered a Talmud Chacham and who's considered an Amma Oretz? It depends if you're a Chabadnik, a Sfardi, a Ashkenazi. There was a big dilemma then. And by the way, that's what you have to do. And there's hundreds of laws in the Torah that if you buy produce from an Amma Oretz, an illiterate person, means he's religious. I'm not talking about a non-religious. He's a religious Jew, but illiterate. He didn't learn. He observes everything. He eats kosher, keeps Shabbos, everything. Do we trust him that he took off all the percent? And we don't. So even if he said he did, we still have to take off the 10% because he doesn't know how severe it is. The only time we trust an illiterate Jew when we ask him a question is on Shabbos. Meaning, if it's on Shabbos, during the Shabbos day, and we say, did you take off the 10% for the Levi? And he says yes, Jews don't lie on Shabbos. It just, you see it, Jews don't know how to lie on Shabbos, because on Shabbos, your soul is revealed, and you're infused with an extra energy of Hashem. So the Torah says, Am ha'aretz einay meshakeh b'Shabbos. An illiterate Jew does not lie on Shabbos, so you trust him, and you can eat the tomatoes, because if he said he did it, you can eat it, but you can only eat it on Shabbos. Right after Shabbos, if you want to take more tomato, you have to take off the 10%. So you trust him just for the Shabbos. Because Shabbos you don't lie. The fact is, we see Jews lie on Shabbos is two reasons. Either they don't know it's Shabbos, or two, they don't know they're lying.
Wow.
That's the only way. But normally, if he knows it's Shabbos and he knows it's a lie, he's not going to lie on Shabbos. So it's just interesting halacha. It sounds funny, but it was serious laws. There's so many laws about illiterate Jews, and what makes you illiterate, and so on and so on.
The retail buyer, person that goes to a shop to buy, he's responsible to take off 10% of his produce that he purchased?
Because
Or he asks
we're not sure
on
that
his
they own
own.
it.
He's already paid for it, therefore he's taking
He has to
10%
take up
of
another
the home
10%,
that he's
yeah.
paid for
Exactly.
as a retail
Yeah.
buyer.
Because we're
Not
not sure.
requiring the storekeeper to do it,
We do require, but we're not sure that they do it.
so we don't ask him.
We can ask them, we don't trust them.
This is Bizman Hazeh? No.
No, today.
This is
This is
the
the
Tambay,
time
not
of
that,
the-
not Bizman
no.
Hazeh.
Today, first of all, there's no illiterate Jews.
Of course,
No, but Israel is today's.
No, today in Israel, they just take off Truma and Maaser.
that's it.
And then that's it. You just have to have a hechsher, the bezin, you don't trust anyone, and that's it, you know? The bezin does it, comes to your store, and they take it off. Rabbi Hanan